It was probably like the worst illness that I'd ever experienced. I was in there for a total of 37 days, and I did get very desperate to get out. I returned to Singapore on the 26th of March. That was very shortly after the global pandemic was announced. On the 5th day of returning to Singapore, I got a fever. It was a really rapid increase in temperature. When I got the swab result and it was positive, I was in quite a lot of pain. The thing that made me quite surprised about the symptoms of COVID-19 were that I didn't expect it to be that bad, because in my age group, which is 20 to 30, you're not supposed to suffer that much from the virus. But in my case, it was really bad. I sustained a 39-degree fever for about 10 days in the hospital. It took quite a lot of medication to bring the fever down to more reasonable levels. And there was one point where I couldn't take a shower standing up. I had to get a chair and sit in the shower. Physically, during the 10 days that I was in hospital, still recovering, was incredibly painful. To be honest, it was probably like the worst illness that I'd ever experienced. Being isolated was a very different experience from being in the hospital. At that point, when they decide to discharge you from the hospital, you're pretty much recovered. But the problem with isolation is the lack of privacy. I'm not a very extroverted person. It was incredibly stressful from a mental standpoint. My second roommate didn't really speak English very much. We barely talked. I used my phone, he used his phone. We couldn't really do anything outside of the presence of each other because you can't go outside, obviously. The only change in the monotony of the situation was getting up to get meals. When you're going for weeks without talking to another person, it's very lonely in a sense. I was in there for a total of 37 days. Basically, I got a lot more depressed. I was getting really, really bitter after a while. The biggest thing is the uncertainty. You have to wait till you get 2 negative results before you can leave. And even if you do have a negative first test, if your second test is positive, then you're going to have to stay for another 4 days. And you had no idea when this was going to end. It was extremely painful, and I did get very desperate almost to get out. I basically needed someone to talk to, so I turned to God. Whenever I was in the shower, I would basically turn off all the lights and pray in complete darkness, because I felt that that brought me closer to God. Even though it makes no logical sense, right? Like turning off the lights. But to me, I felt much closer to God when doing that, and it felt like I could pray whatever I wanted. And that's kind of when my mom messaged me on WhatsApp, started teaching me the Liberation Rosary. And she was like, it's only 8 minutes. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And in a way, I could feel her own desperation through that WhatsApp message. I mean, she wanted me back as much as I wanted to go back home. So that's when I started praying the Liberation Rosary. The Liberation Rosary focuses a lot more on healing. It basically consists of 3 verses, which is Jesus heal me, Jesus free me, Jesus save me. 3 days after I started praying the Liberation Rosary, I suddenly got a call saying, Jonathan, it says here that you're about to be discharged, so please pack up your things. But I didn't call my parents because I still wasn't sure if it wasn't just like an admin mistake. So I just sat in my bed with all my stuff packed until they called me again. And they were like, someone's waiting outside your door. Can you please go now? So I just quickly grabbed all my stuff, went outside, took a deep breath of fresh air. The feeling of liberation was incredible. I had been breathing air-conditioned air for like 37 days, and breathing fresh air, it was crazy. Going through this experience made me feel a lot closer to God than I was before. I just had to have the patience that God would eventually answer my prayers in one way or another. And even though it was really, really difficult, you just kind of had to trust in the fact that God was looking after you, and that one day you'd be reunited with those you love.